me. Do you mind if I join you? Are you sure you don't mind? You're absolutely sure I won't be disturbing you?
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
It's fate that go right now. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
Hello, welcome to the Mental Suppository. I'm Bret Herholtz.
I'm Kevin Barbary.
I'm Jamie Billings.
And we're here to scare the hell out of you. Or not. Whatever. But we're here to talk about horror movies, which it's amazing because I feel like horror is one of those genres that is never, it's always been around since like the dawn of movie making, and it's like you have certain genres like film noir or westerns that have gone away, but much like the baddie in a horror film, it's always come back, and people have always it just always continue to enjoy it. And
well, because people always like to be scared.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
There's always that some kind of primal feeling that you get watching a horror movie when you have that feeling of you can't escape, or the villain in the background over your back with a knife. It's always that little element of fear that everybody loves.
It's the feelings you want to avoid in real life, but you can actually experience them with no harm to yourself because it's just a movie.
Just some
Exactly.
kind of relative safety of your couch.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I'm just, I've just been kind of thinking about it lately with one of these things. It's like people who say, like a casual viewer says, I'm not really into horror films. And a lot of them have probably seen a horror film they like, if you could think off the top of your head, a film that might not be, they might not consider a horror film, like The Sixth Sense, that people have enjoyed and watched,
Right.
Mhm.
But
I'm hearing thumping upstairs. Speaking of spookiness.
This is a great big 14-mile tombstone with an epitaph on it that nobody gonna bother to read.
Never mind. Okay.
I figured I'd go a round table. I mean, the three of us, we all have we all kind of enjoy, certain degrees of horror. I mean, from like classic horror to like a lot of the more recent slasher horror films. And so I thought, I'd go around and say, what were our three favorite horror films? And I'd start off saying,
Cool.
My three favorites were The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, The Curse of Frankenstein, and The Abominable Dr. Phibes, like three horror films from one was from England, one was from Germany, and one was from an American horror film with Caligari was German expressionist with Conrad Veidt, and they did, or Conrad Veidt, and it was one of these films that if you watch it was done in an expressionist style, which was actually really hated at the time, and the filmmaker did it on purpose just to really annoy the audience or really upset the audience. But also there was a part of it that it was done mentally, where the parts of the film that were done in this very surrealistic style, where they had these really weird backgrounds to it, was done because it was all in the mind of somebody who was somebody who was insane. So it was all
Spoiler.
Told, what's that?
Spoiler.
Oh, sorry. I just ruined the film for all of you. The
I
other
think
one was,
they've had a few years to have seen it by now.
well,
If they haven't,
1919,
they should.
1920. But it's a great film.
It's on my list.
But it was a film that
I do have a bucket list.
I can imagine a young Tim Burton seeing this film and being inspired by it, because you look at the backgrounds.
Look at your background right now. That's so very, it's very much what a Tim Burton movie would look like.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
The other one-
he definitely takes it from there.
The other one was Curse of Frankenstein with Peter Cushing, which was the traditional Hammer British film, and it was one of these films. A lot of it, was to do with, it was different from the Universal Frankenstein that came out, where they made, I think they tried to get the rights to do Frankenstein like the Universal, but they couldn't do the boxy monster. But at the same time, they created this great makeup with Christopher Lee as the monster. But at the same time, I think I was kind of disappointed because they didn't make, they didn't have Christopher Lee speak in the role. He had this great voice, and in the books, spoke, and he had these great lines talking about, Milton's Paradise Lost and just being, thinking he was like Adam in the book. And you could just imagine, Christopher Lee saying, "I love Milton's Paradise Lost," and just saying it in that voice. And they kind of missed out on that. But you had Peter Cushing playing Dr. Frankenstein as such a bastard. And and just there was that one great scene that I think was the best scene in the movie where he kills another spoiler, folks. He kills like this aged doctor.
Hold on, I gotta take my headphones off. I don't want to hear it.
He kills this aged doctor, but the way he does it is he pushes him off the off the balcony, and
If you step back a little, you'll see better. Look out, Rebecca, look out!
You just see the guy fall to the floor, and it's obviously like a padded floor, but the way that they did it, it was just visually it was just such a great scene.
Okay.
And the third movie is The Abominable Dr. Fives with Vincent Price, which was just like I guess they were like the kissing, American International was like the kissing cousin of Hammer, but it was just so wonderfully over the top, and they had the plot of Dr. Fives, killing these physicians who failed to revive his wife, and doing it with I think it was like the plagues of Egypt.
I will have killed 9 times in my life, Dr. Vesalius. How many murders can be attributed to you?
None. I did not kill your wife.
No?
I tried to save her.
With a knife in your hand, Doctor, I have no faith in your profession.
But you have like him speaking in his voice, but also you have this. Also, it's like half horror, half camp, because you have this great scene with Terry Thomas as this old pervert watching these films.
Yeah, he's sitting there going, "Oh yeah." He has to hand crank the projector. He's like,
"Oh, I say, oh,
oh yes." Oh, hello, Mrs. Bunston. I thought you'd left for the night.
I'm just watching the film. Oh, I say, I'm just such a rogue. But again, it had that the film had that Hammer feel to it. But it was just, I had all these horrible things going on, and you just see all this stuff. But it just like it was horror, but it was it was just like an enjoyable film.
My dog did not like the Terry Thomas impression. He got up and started barking at me. It's like, what's happening? Why are you talking in that
I don't
voice?
like Terry Thomas. Oh, he's such a rogue.
Yeah, Dr. Fives was one of my all-time favorites of all time, and it's funny because I also really love Theater of Blood, which is basically the same kind of plot if you think about it. It's just twisted around. Theater of Blood is Vincent Price is a Shakespearean actor who got all these bad reviews, and he supposedly kills himself. Spoiler.
Yes.
but he actually lives, and he goes around getting revenge on all the critics who wrote bad reviews on him, using deaths from Shakespeare plays,
including Robert Morley, who's just playing Robert Morley as one of the critics.
My precious.
Oh yes, I suppose you'll really like the pies.
2 pies. We knew that Monsieur would be hungry. You do remember, Monsieur, how in Titus Andronicus the Queen tomorrow was served her own children baked in a pie? Of course, in your case, we've used only the tenderest morsels. Do have some more.
And both movies had, all character actors playing, familiar to the
Yes.
the British population, character actors playing every critic, and then in Dr. Fives you had British actors playing every doctor.
Yeah,
Nine killed you. 9 must die.
Yeah, I love that line. I absolutely love that line. He also, I think it was Peter Jeffries plays Inspector Trout, who is like one of my favorite characters, because it's like, all right, we'll find this Fives, we will.
Dr. Fives.
Yes, yes.
Phoebes. Oh, yes.
And Joseph Cotton.
Yes.
As
That's
the
right.
last doctor he had to catch, and he had his
And
grandson.
Yep, and the key was in the son's heart, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's been
or was it his throat? Was it his heart?
It was some part where it's like if he got it wrong, it was going to be bad for him.
Yeah. Well, he had
no matter what.
acid coming down. He had to. Have you seen this movie, Jamie? Right? We're not.
Yeah. No, you're not spoiling. That's why I'm like, I think it was in his heart.
Okay.
But I just thought it was great because he had like his face looked like it was covered in beeswax because it was supposed to be a mask, and then he pulls it off, and you got the skull underneath, and it was great makeup for the time.
Yeah.
And I guess it was supposed to be like a trilogy, like a series of films. They were going to like have Dr. Fives in the 1980s, and it was just going to keep going on and on. But I always liked some of the American International films because it had very like the sensibilities of the Hammer films, only a little bit more sluttier.
Had the American sluttiness.
Exactly. Because I was just watching one recently with it was like with Casey Kasem and Bruce Dern. It was like The Man with Two Heads.
Oh God! Oh wait.
The man
the two-headed transplant where they used
Yes.
Rosie Greer and Ray Milland?
No. This was a different one. It actually had the actress who played Marilyn Manson as the wife in it. And it
the
had
woman
Casey
who played Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Munster. Sorry.
Oh, Marilyn. Oh, she was the wife.
Yes.
So you had Casey Kasem, Marilyn Munster,
and Bruce Dern.
And Bruce Dern.
and they put the head on this guy who was like this sort of gentle dope with this like pervert. So it's like the pervert's like telling him, yes, kill him. I look like Terry Thomas. Oh yes. And he did. He had like the space in his teeth, and it was awful. It's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I can't. The bunny rabbit's George.
Who are you? I'm your brother. You and I are now one, dummy.
And it's just such an awful film, and I guess Riff Tracks riffed on it. So of course they're doing all these Casey Kasem lines like, "Oh, this is a bunch of bullshit." Oh, back to the line.
Ponderous, fucking ponderous.
That was what they were saying.
Did they really?
Yes.
I have to come out of an up-tempo song into a dead dog dedication. Yeah, I've heard that on you.
Oh gosh.
Dear, it starts like this.
Yeah,
Dear Casey,
a bummer.
We just lost a dog named Snuggles. Can you play Guns N' Roses?
Can you play Poison's Every Rose Has a Thorn? So those are my three favorites.
Here's Unskinny Bop by Poison.
Those are my three favorites. Who wants to go next?
Let's see. Let's see. I could probably do mine. You guys you did a little bit more of like the classic type, 60s, 70s type horror. The things that I were thinking of, I went with The Night of the Living Dead, but I specifically went with the 1990 Tom Savini remake.
They're us. We're them, and they're us.
Say what?
Nothing. Having fun.
Give me a break.
I kind of feel like that one was I feel like that one was a tad bit better than the original Night of the Living Dead. The special effects were much better, obviously because it was done by Tom Savini. I don't know, cinematography was done with Tony Todd. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Todd was amazing in that. So yeah, that, and then I also went with Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And I specifically went with 4, The Dream Warriors.
I remember that.
You remember that one? That
I
was
do.
also a really cool one. And
Is that the one where he had the heroin addict, and he had the needles
no,
on
that
his?
that was
3.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was 3. Oh, the
Which
Dream
is
Master.
the one where the
I'm
kid
sorry.
tries to think he's a
I'm sorry, I
wizard
meant
and
the
tries
Dream.
to do.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
I want to draw some blood.
That's what I meant.
Dream Master. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
'cause
okay.
I'm sorry, because Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was The Dream Warriors. But I meant to say Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And the final movie that I thought about was, it's like most people wouldn't really think that it's a horror movie, but it's a movie called Requiem for a Dream.
Can you see me? Says he's got something wrong with his arm. I don't think he'll be putting any more dope in that arm. Smells worse than he do.
Test.
Better get him over to the hospital. I don't expect to live out the week.
Ready, and
1.
Oh God. Yeah.
That is an intense, scary movie, but not really in the horror category because I don't know why, but because it's so visceral, so real. You know, I've only seen that movie once in my life, and that's enough.
What's
Yeah, that's a hard one to rewatch.
A very hard one to rewatch.
Because with Caligari, I didn't immediately consider it a horror film, but I mean, it's considered a horror film. I
Have you ever
kind of
seen
consider it an
Requiem?
art film.
Requiem is kind of artistic in a way too. You know, there's a lot of great camera work in that movie. The acting is amazing. Ellen Bernstein,
Yeah.
Yep.
fantastic in that movie. Was it Jared Leto?
Yeah. Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly. Yep. Damon
Was this
Wayans.
Opportunity Knocks, Jennifer Connelly?
No, it was
no. This was a
Grown
little
Up
bit
Jennifer.
later.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Why do you always bring it back to Opportunity Knocks, Jennifer Connelly?
I don't know.
Come on, man.
So this is interesting. I didn't know that. Now I'm going off on just a slight tangent here. I didn't realize that your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film was directed by Rennie Harlan.
Rennie Harlan. Yep.
Who did Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger,
Yep.
Long Kiss Goodnight, Deep Blue Sea. Yeah, that's. I had no idea that was a movie he directed.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
I saw Cliffhanger
And it
in
had
the
one of
theater.
the coolest practical effects I've ever seen. When there's a truck who's supposed to be driving towards Freddy, and Freddy being in the dream or whatever, the truck actually curves around nothing. It's in the trailer if you could find the trailer, but you see how the truck is set up in a prop where it's driving at full speed, and it looks like it's supposed to crash into a tree, but from your point of view, there is no tree. You just see the car crumble around nothing. Oh, it's fantastic. One of the best practical effects ever.
I miss practical effects. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's become a lost art form.
Yeah, I appreciate when people try to do both instead of just going full CGI. Like when when they did the Star Wars sequels, instead of doing what Lucas did with the prequels and just going full green screen CGI, Abrams tried to take it a little bit back to some of the practical. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, I appreciated that.
Yeah. And I like that the fact that you picked the Night of the Living Dead remake, because I think that's a underappreciated movie that's very well done. And I also like that it was kind of, no matter how many times you've seen the original, there was still some unpredictability to the remake.
Right.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Wow.
what are yours?
God, I have so many movies from so many decades. I mean, I could go recent and I could go old, but I think I'm going to go with the ones that I've probably seen the most. As far as old movies, I would go oldest favorite horror movie is probably Bride of Frankenstein.
Can't leave them, I can't. Yes, go. You live. Go. You stay. We belong dead.
Oh, James Whale. Oh gosh.
Yeah. I remember seeing it on television, then seeing it they put it out in like 70 millimeter one time in the theater. My father took me to see it in the theater, and it's just always been a favorite. I think based on the fact that it was just one of the first things I saw.
Right.
Because we had a show that came on every Saturday when I was growing up called Shock Theater, and they would show the old black and white horror movies every weekend. So I saw all of those things. That was my first experience with scary movies, horror movies. And then I'd probably go, all right, this is tough. Only three.
It was really tough for me to think about that too, so I know.
If I were gonna say movies that a lot of people haven't seen that I wanted to recommend that are one of my favorites, and anytime I'm with someone with an extended period of time and they haven't seen it, we end up watching this movie, is this movie called Burnt Offerings.
Will you answer me?
I've been waiting for you, Ben.
Which is it was written and directed by Dan Curtis, who created Dark Shadows.
Oh my goodness!
Ooh.
And he did Jack Palance version of Dracula and Jekyll and Hyde and all that. But it stars Oliver Reed and Karen Black.
Oh, fantastic! I love Oliver Reed.
And they rent a house for I don't know if it's a summer. I guess it would be a summer. From Burgess Meredith and Eileen Heckert. And it's an old rundown house with like a pool and everything. And the only thing they tell them is, hey, just make sure you take care of our elderly aunt who lives up in the room at the top of the house.
Elderly aunt.
Oh, he's in a wheelchair in this movie, but he's not that old in it, but he's acting like he's super over the top in it because he doesn't have very many lines, but they come to meet these people and they say we'd really love to take care of the house, and he's like, oh, I like them. But anyway, long story short, the house renovates itself using the families that caretake for it every 20 years or whatever. And that includes the old aunt that lives up in the attic. She ends up being replaced by the matriarch of whatever family takes care of the house. So it's a really slow burn, very creepy, great ending. One of the greatest endings ever. It was a movie I just loved as a kid, and it always stuck with me. So that would be one or two.
You had me at Dan Curtis.
Yeah, Dan Curtis, the creator of The Night Stalker. That was the other.
Oh, that's right, Kolchak.
Yeah,
Kolchak. Yeah.
And then the first, boy, I think I'd have to go with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. I was going to go with Dawn of the Dead because that one.
The 1978 Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, I also like the remake, and I also like the remake of the
2004
Texas Chainsaw
Zack
Massacre.
Snyder one was pretty good too. Yeah.
Yeah, That might be one of the only movies he's made that I liked. Okay, I'll give him 300.
All right. I was gonna say 300 was pretty badass too, and we
Yeah.
got to wait and see how Justice League turns out.
Right.
We got to wait for that.
We know.
The Snyder cut.
So yeah, I the reason Dawn of the Dead was initially my choice, and I changed it at the very last second, is Dawn of the Dead I saw in the theater, the original one.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
And before I saw it, I was obsessed with seeing it. I saw Siskel and Ebert review it, and zombies, for some reason, I had a fear of. I don't know why. Not necessarily a fear of like a dead person, like, ooh, but more of, I used to have this nightmare where I was in a movie theater watching a movie, and while I'm in this theater, something along the lines of Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead happened outside. And we had no idea because we're in a theater. But then all of a sudden, all these dead people like storm on the theater and start, rah!
Makes sense.
And I would
like
always
a feeling of being trapped or claustrophobia, where they're slowly closing in on you and making your circle smaller. Yeah.
It wasn't like the running zombies, which are twice as terrifying when it came to that.
Oh God.
But yeah, Dawn of the Dead. I was fascinated with the horror movie makeup and blood, and I don't know, it never really bothered me. I always knew it was fake, but I was fascinated with it.
Yeah, same with me.
Makeup effects and just seeing pictures of it and like looking at it and being like, whoa.
Like
and
figuring out how they could have done such a cool effect. Like how did they get the top of his head to get chopped off by the helicopter?
Right. and Tom Savini was the one that just like Friday the 13th, the girl getting the axe in her head, and Friday the 13th.
God.
I was like, how in the world? I mean, I was just fascinated with that kind of stuff. So Dawn of the Dead really got me in that way. But the reason I picked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that was the first movie I can think of that I saw that scared me in a different way, in that it looked like it was so gritty and dirty looking, and it's something that could really happen. Like Dawn of the Dead, I didn't really expect, zombies to take over the world that were blue skinned, first of all, and with bright red blood. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, especially the way it starts with the news report and the camera flash going off with this weird sound, that was always scary. And I think it's because when I was little, that the commercial for it playing in the theater used to come on really late at night, and it scared me to death.
This is the movie that is just as real, just as close, just as terrifying as being there.
And it was rated, I almost gave away something. I almost gave away one of the questions. You know what? We're going to drop that question. It was originally rated.
Okay.
Yeah, it was rated X when I used to see the commercials for it late at night. And,
wow.
And they ended up submitting it back to the MPAA. He kept cutting it down and cutting it down. He wanted to get it to PG. It's still got an R, but if you actually watch the movie, there's not a whole lot shown. A lot of it's suggested.
Yeah. Off camera, sound effects. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was. I remember the ad in the paper when it first came out, and then at some point they suddenly it was R, but the commercials late at night it was rated X, and it was just horrifying to watch to me with nothing in it. It's just
for me like you could almost feel like that sense of dirtiness, but you could like almost be like, man, this place really stinks. It must have like that really nasty smell of death all around.
Rotten meat and
oh God.
Yeah.
And that's another thing you could always feel like if I'm walking through this place, I could just feel the dirt on me.
Yeah.
It's like an old building feel.
Yeah.
Like being in an old building, you feel like you're in something dead.
In something dead. Like
and,
a Pentagon.
I mean, if it's considered a horror movie, I would drop I would definitely drop one of those for Alien, because Alien is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
I have a wealth of knowledge about it, tons of books about it, lots of just collectibles about it, and so if that was a horror movie, that would be that and The Thing by John Carpenter.
Oh,
See, now I'm going into 5
not
movies.
again.
So
and still like, waiting it to the end of the last frame of The Thing as to know like which one is the alien. Is there a little breath that comes out? You know, you can see that little frost breath that comes out. Do you see it come out? No, I don't know.
It's funny you mentioning, commercials that scared you as a kid. I remember the first one that did was the commercial Channel 56 ran for Salem's Lot. That terrified the hell out of me. I think it was mostly because, they had vampire in it, because they had it in the commercial, and it was just like, as a kid, you're just scared to hell. And it's funny. I had
also directed by Tobe Hooper, who did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh,
and I was just going to mention my first feeling of horror movies and my first memory of seeing something scary was Poltergeist.
Oh,
that was a great one, and that was a PG. That was a PG movie,
right? The scene more in particular was when the guy was ripping his face off. That's the one that stuck with me, being, I don't know, 4 or 6 years old, seeing that.
Propane.
Yeah, that was great.
Propane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough call, just coming down with just 3 selections.
Because I figured if we mentioned all of ours, it would probably take like 12 shows. But thinking of like 3, I mean, it's one of those things that,
if we all had ourselves like a 6-pack, and we could just sit there and talk about our favorite movies, it'd be all night long.
And Salem's Lot is one of the few television movies that I really, still to this day, think was very well done. Like, I don't like the Tim Curry It. Tim Curry's all right, but the movie's just awful.
It drags.
Yeah. Awful. I can't think of another television horror movie off the top of my head except that one that was really good.
The Shining remake that I think it was in the
The Shining.
Oh, you know what? I did like that because of how closely it followed the book.
It was very close to the book. I think it was 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah.
Man. I kind of felt for Stephen King on that, because I like the Jack Nicholson Shining, but I mean, I always go back to that whole phone conversation he had with Kubrick, where Kubrick called Stephen King and says, "Do you believe in God?" And he says, "Yes." He goes, "Well, I don't," and hung up the phone on him and did the film his way. Because Kubrick was a friggin' nut.
Because that's what Kubrick would do, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was, it's if you're
Speaking of The Shining.
Yeah.
There it is.
Never.
Come play with us, Danny. Forever.
So you guys are familiar with DJ Trivia, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Usually it happens
Somewhat.
at a restaurant. Usually it happens at a restaurant and sports bar, and they get some handsome devil to, loaded with talent and personality to ask these different questions. I think I still have a gift card from like Brew City. I thought, I'll have time. I'll be able to spend it at some point. But
you haven't spent that yet?
No. No. But it's funny that, ironic that we're doing this whole show on horror movies, because I heard there's a new game show called DOA Trivia.
That's right, Bret.
What?
Bret Harrelts, come on down. Well, it's time to play DOA Trivia, the game show that's fun for all ages, living and undead. Now, here's your host, Pat Slayjack.
Thanks, Ron. The rules are simple. The winner who answers all the questions right will win a fantastic prize. The losers will get eternal damnation or a stake in the heart. So, even if you lose, you win. Tonight is a special celebrity edition of DOA Trivia. Now let's meet our celebrity contestants. Please welcome Freddy Krueger.
It's such an honor to be here, Bat. And if I lose, I'll haunt your nightmares.
Get in line with 12 of my 26 ex-wives. Let's meet our next guest. A real sexual deviant, not to mention a bit of a hellraiser. Let's hear it for Pinhead.
I actually prefer lead Cenobite, Bat.
A Pinhead, ladies and gremlins.
Go to hell, Bat.
I'm already there. And our final guest is none other than the diabolical Vincent Price.
Hello, Bat. It's so nice to be here.
Just Vincent Price? You're not Vincent Price as Dr. Phibes or something?
No, I figured Vincent Price was scary enough.
Okay, then. Let's play the game! Question number 1. How many people associated with The Exorcist died during the film's production? Yes, Vincent Price.
6?
No, I'm sorry. Would you like to try? Anyone else? Pinhead? Freddy?
Oh, god damn it.
Is it possible? 13.
No, that is incorrect, idiot. The correct answer is 9.
Oh, I should have known that one.
Question number 2. What popular horror movie was originally titled The Babysitter Murders? Yes.
Would that be Halloween?
That is correct, Freddy Krueger.
Oh, god damn it.
Halloween was originally entitled The Babysitter Murders until Erwin Yablans, the studio producer, said, let's name it a specific holiday. People will like it better.
Nobody wants to die on Valentine's Day.
Name this movie based on its plot. In 1973, a police sergeant visits a remote island in search of a missing girl to find the inhabitants have turned to paganism. Yes, a Pinhead.
Would that be The Wicker Man?
That is correct, Pinhead. Next question. What film that went on to make $248 million at the box office only paid its 3 stars $1,000 each during its production? Yes, Freddy Krueger.
Would that be The Blair Witch Project?
Unbelievable! That is correct! Yes! Oh, Vincent Price, you are not very good at the horror trivia.
No, I'm not very good. Just ask my wife.
Here is the last question. What horror film was the first to show a flushing toilet on camera in American cinema?
Oh.
God damn it, I know this, but I can't think of it.
Oh, this is shit.
That's why you're flushing. Anyone? Anyone?
That's the dog.
I'm sorry. The correct answer was Psycho.
Oh, crap.
Well, it looks like with a score of 0, Vincent Price is not in the running.
Oh, god damn it. I've got to spend eternity with Robert Morley again.
And with the most correct answers, Freddy beats out Pinhead by a nail. You're tonight's winner, Roddy. Tell him what he wants.
He has won all expenses weekend to Crystal Lake, a private getaway that's fun for the entire family. There will be archery, boating, and plenty of horny teenagers to slice and dice. And a 2-night stay at Overlook Hotel. Party like it's 1925. Forever and ever. Also, you'll be receiving a gift certificate to Chateau Meredith Meadow for the night of fine dining.
I highly recommend you try the pies.
I stayed at Crystal Lake. It's not bad. Not bad. And a $50 gift card to Woolworths.
Tune in tomorrow night to see who will be making a killing on DOA Trivia. This is Baptist Blackjack reminding you to control the mushroom population. Have Wolfman spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, all in good fun. All in good fun. So while we're on it, I mean, if you think about it, what movies would you guys think about, a horror movie that you guys would want to remake or direct yourself or recast? For me, it's funny. I'd actually go with Manos: The Hands of Fate, because it was such an incompetent film. But I would love to see, taking that script, but it done with like competent actors who like acted out the role in direction that was like competent, and see if it actually worked as a film.
More than Plan 9?
No, I think it's a worse film than Plan 9, to be honest with you. I mean, everybody says like Plan 9's the worst film ever made. I think Manos might be actually worse than Plan 9, because you had a film that was like the guy filmed it with a Bell and Howell camera, which is silent, and then they tried to like dub the voiceover with like 3 actors, the same 3 actors. You had like a 30-year-old woman, playing the voice of a daughter, and you had like sound effects that were off, and scenes that would last too long because they were like, you crank, you'd have the film cranked and they play it, and you play, you'd film it till it ran out. So
yeah, but a tombstone never just fell down in the background.
Oh yeah, you got that. But I mean, this was still, you had moths, because they would film night scenes at night, and the moths would swarm the camera. So I mean,
you have to write that into the script.
Would this film actually be better if you had a really great cast that acted the lines? That is my question. The other I think I mentioned earlier was Caligari, because it's like, I feel like people are, especially younger viewers, aren't wanting to see older films. So I mean, especially silent films.
Or black and white.
So yeah, so redoing a film like Caligari for a new audience, doing it with the same scenes, I think would make for like visually a really intriguing film. Especially spoilers, it all taking place in a madman's mind.
In his mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Kevin, what are a few of your film you'd like to, you wouldn't mind seeing remade or recasted?
I actually would love to see somebody do a good remake of Burnt Offerings, the movie I talked about earlier.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, the people that were in it were just so good that it would be hard for me to accept people other than Oliver Reed and Karen Black and Burgess Meredith.
Yeah.
But it's a movie that I think could be made even scarier than it was if they did it now, because it's along the lines of like a film like The Conjuring, or one of these films that could easily be done and made PG-13, and it would still be scary as
so frightening. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? Other than that, all the ones that I, would like to see remade, most of them have been, and a lot of them have done a pretty decent job. A lot of them haven't, but uh, that's the only one I can think of. Yeah, I mean, there was another movie, a great movie. I don't know if either one of you've seen this, called The Sentinel.
I've heard of it. I feel like I've heard of it.
That one has Christina Rains. She rents an apartment in a building in New York that ends up actually being a gateway to hell. The building, not the apartment.
No, our hometown, Jamie.
And the building is full of all these strange, eccentric neighbors. Burgess Meredith being one of them. And
God, he's in everything.
Yeah, wah, come to hell, wah, etc.
I believe he has a ton of cats in this movie, but it's got a lot of people. Christopher Walken's in it, and
oh my God,
Vincent Gardenia, Chris Sarandon.
Cool.
It's a really good movie, but the most disturbing part about it, one of the two things that stuck out about it were there's a part where she keeps having visions of her dead father, who was like abusive, in this apartment, and at one point she walks into a room and he's standing. And it's funny, somebody I went to high school with, he still talks about this thing this day because it scared him to death. He's standing behind a door. It's like a dark room. She walks in and shines a light. You can see him standing behind a door with like his eyes clouded over, and he's only wearing like old man underwear or something.
That's scary enough.
Yeah. He walks up and scares her, and she takes a pair of scissors and snips the end of his nose off. Like, ah!
Oh,
and
wow.
His nose is gone. So there's that. The other disturbing thing is a lot of the people who come out of the portal of hell at the end are real people who are just deformed, like in Todd Browning's Freaks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's like
goodness.
somebody comes out with like Titus, and somebody with no legs and no arms, but they put like scary makeup on their face. But a lot of them are just real people who just look strange, and they're supposedly people coming out of hell's portal.
Oh, wow.
So that's one to look up, kids.
Yeah,
that's one that. That's
Want some nightmare fuel? There you go.
There you
Perfect
go.
movie for any 3-year-old child.
That's one I actually saw on television. It was on NBC one night, and I didn't see it until years later, the actual full version. So
the
those would be
NBC
the two.
Mystery movie.
Yes.
Wow. No, that's amazing. Jamie?
Let's see. Well, if I was to think about I would want to recast something, but I'd want it to be like completely zany and like something so silly and surreal that it wouldn't be horror anymore. So I was thinking that if you were to take the 1981 Evil Dead, okay, and recast everybody in it. So Ash, Linda, Scott, Cheryl. So Ash is going to be played by Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. Linda would be played by Kelly Kapowski, Zach's girlfriend, of course. Scott would be played by AC Slater.
Oh, God.
And Cheryl would be played by Jesse Spano. And, of course, anytime that you needed to have a fake Shemp, because if you look at the credits for the Evil Dead, there's about 20 fake Shemps that they had, which is basically just somebody that just...
Bruce Campbell was one of them.
Bruce Campbell was also a fake Shemp for other scenes that he wasn't in. But I think for everyone to have a fake Shemp, a person being a fake Shemp would be Screech. Every person to be a fake would be Screech.
Screech could be the moose.
He is the moose.
Or Screech could be the evil twigs and trees in the woods.
Ew.
Yeah. You know what part I'm talking about. Okay.
Yes. Screech could be the face on the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
He is the face on the Necronomicon.
So that's what I went with. Going with a comedy version of Evil Dead as the cast of Saved by the Bell.
Another one I kind of wonder if it was done differently, if it might be more creepier is Carnival of Souls.
Yeah, Carnival of Souls.
You know, if that was remade.
I think someone remade that.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I seem to remember that somebody attempted to remake that or something, and it was on. I feel like it was made for like a pay TV channel at the time.
Like Shudder, maybe?
Yeah. I'm gonna take a look real quick and see if that is factual.
Well, I know there was one of the movies Riff Tracks recently riffed. And
1998.
Okay.
Yes, it was remade in 1998, and really didn't have. Oh, it had. It did. Wes Craven executive produced it.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I can mention some names if you know who they are. That you might. Shawnee Smith was in it, but she didn't star in it.
Oh,
it starred.
She was in The Blob.
And Saw.
And come on, The Blob. She was awesome in The Blob.
That was a good movie.
Yeah.
Larry Miller was in it.
Not Barney Miller?
Not Barney Miller. And the only other main character, Bobby Phillips played. Bobby Phillips. Why don't I recall who that is? Yeah. That's pretty much it. So now I guess we have to watch the remake of Carnival of Souls and see if it's creepier.
With Johnny Smith.
Well, I saw the Riff Tracks recently did a riffing of Carnival of Souls, and they mentioned some of the scenes like, oh, did the Criterion Collection really need that many scenes back in the movie?
Oh, speaking of Shawnee Smith, just made me think of an awesome scene from Saw 2. Kevin, you've seen Saw 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that scene when she gets thrown into the pit of needles and she has to find the key?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Every time I think about that scene, even like right now, it gives me like chills just thinking about that, because she literally has to take her hands and she's clawing through the broken needles to find that scene was so horrific.
Yeah, there's some pretty horrific things in all those movies. Even that last one they put out, Jigsaw, had some really clever and disturbing things in it.
Is that the one with the laser neck thing?
I don't remember.
Oh, there's so many different Saws now.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to start up the old Universal monster movies again, or has it stopped? Because I know they were doing The Invisible Man.
Yeah. Well, they did.
They did The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. Have you seen that one, Brett?
I haven't seen that one yet. I just recently watched the original again, and I mean, apparently Claude Rains' voice inspired Mark Hamill's Joker.
Huh.
That whole, crazy you think I am? I'll show you crazy.
I'll show you crazy.
Yes. Claude Rains.
Did they do a commercial spot where he was talking directly to the camera and the camera was panning in on him saying, like, folks, if you come see this movie, you'll see how insane that I really am.
I feel like that seems like they would have done.
That sounds like something they would have done. Yeah.
Well, they had a sequel to The Invisible Man, which actually had Vincent Price in it. The son of the Invisible Man, or the uncle of the Invisible Man, or the Invisible Man of the Invisible Man.
I'm looking to see if there's a Claude Rains trailer talking about. Let me try Claude Rains endorsing The Invisible Man.
But it's funny you mentioned earlier James Whale, because I recently watched the movie Gods and Monsters with Ian McKellen as James Whale. And it was a decent, it was sort of around that time where a lot of the films like Shadow of the Vampire, where it was a documentary, but it wasn't a documentary because they took liberties, but it was fairly well done. Because, I mean, James Whale was an interesting cat, along with Todd Browning. You mentioned Freaks earlier, where I actually got in trouble with a school once because I was doing a class that was like showing films, and I was going to show Todd Browning's Freaks, and the parents, well, freaked about it.
Yeah, of course.
They thought it was inappropriate, and it's like, oh, you're saying,
parents don't
circus,
understand
circus freaks aren't, good enough to be shown in your school. What are you saying against circus freaks, you jerks?
Have you ever seen the British movie called The Freak Maker with Tom Baker?
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
That one also has real circus sideshow people in it. It's a color movie, but it's got a professor in it who's trying to create hybrid people.
Does Tom Baker play the professor in it? Yes.
He's one of the mutants. He's the henchman for the doctor that goes out and kills people. But there's a pretty funny birthday scene in it, similar to Freaks. It's almost like a weird synonym, I guess, film synonym of Freaks, because it's almost the same movie but a completely different plot. It's about somebody making the freaks as opposed to somebody with a circus.
Oh, kind of like the early '90s Alex Winter movie, Freaked.
Yes.
Intense Bogus Journey. Oh, sorry.
Alex Winter. Who else was in that? Randy Quaid. Randy Quaid was in that too.
As Randy Quaid, starring as Randy Quaid
himself.
Yeah. Pumping out a toilet in his van.
Not even related to the movie. Yeah. Any movie he's in, he just looks at the camera.
And Dennis Quaid's over there like, I wish. And Dennis Quaid's over there like, I wish he wasn't related to me.
Well, not related to him. I'm too busy over here fucking Meg Ryan.
Oh God, she's got a facelift.
All right. What do we got? What are we gonna try doing the?
I was gonna ask. So I have
even though we don't have Andy here.
Yeah, I was gonna read we're gonna do the scene from Caligari, which again is a favorite movie of mine, and so what I'll do is I'll read the descriptions, and I'd figured Kevin could do Caligari, you could do the voices of Alan, Jamie, you could do the voices of Alan Francis, and I'll do Caesar, who's one line. But it's one of these movies, like I said, it's just so visually interesting, and I think they said it's like the world's first horror movie, but I feel like it's more like we discussed before. It's more of an art film just because it's German expressionist, which was hated at the time. People just it's like most art forms. I feel like like with pop art or anything like that. It's like it's more appreciated later on. So, and this was one of those films where the director went out of his way just to do an art form that would like really piss off the audience. So I'll read the descriptions and we can go from there. So we're going to do two scenes. One is the fear scene and one's the ending, which I think was like one of the great reveals in movies. So I'll start.
All right.
Attracted by the sound of the bell and the extraordinary sight of Caligari brandishing it wildly, people begin to press around the platform. Caligari unrolls the cloth which he has brought out of the tent to reveal a large painting of the emaciated human figure with a disproportionately large head. It has manic, tragic face of a painting of Munch.
Step right up. Now showing for the first time, Caesar, the somnambulist.
Alan and Francis stagger from right, their arms around each other's shoulders, and they are both smiling broadly. They are happy with their visit to the fair. They turn their face camera, look at them, turn and walk away. A group of young women enter from behind. The organ stops in front of it. Their arms are linked, and they are giggling happily. Meanwhile, Caligari is still exclaiming at the top of his voice from the platform in front of the tent, swinging his bell in front of his hands. Finally, he puts down the bell. giving him more freedom of movement to gesture towards the poster of the sinister, staring figure. In the foreground are the hats of the crowds, many of them conical, as more people press round the platform.
Step right up, now showing for the first time, Caesar, the miraculous, 23 years of age, has for these 3 and 20 years been sleeping, night and day, without a break. Before your very eyes, Caesar will awaken from his death-like rigidity. Step right up! Step right up!
Caligari picks the poster up in one hand and taps it vigorously with his cane to lend weight to the words. Then he puts the poster down and, with a theatrical sweep of his arms, draws back the flap of the tent, opening behind him, invites the people to enter. In the center of the group, in angle shot, are Francis and Alan. The latter is speaking eagerly, animatedly, to his friend, urging him to come with him to see the symbolist. Francis seems dubious and cynical, but Alan still tugs instantly at his arm. Inside Caligari's tent, a central aisle leads from foreground to a small stage in the rear. The audience from the show are sitting or standing at either side of the aisle. Suddenly, the curtain on the right of the stage is swept aside, and Caligari bounds to the stage, ringing his bell and exclaiming excitedly. A long, narrow cabinet, slowly resembling a coffin, is standing on the end of the right side of the stage. Then, with a sudden movement, he flicks open the right door of the cabinet, then the left, to reveal Caesar standing immobile inside. The somnambulist is wearing black tights painted with random oblique stripes and a polo neck sweater. He's heavily made up eyes are closed, standing out strongly against the dead white face. Caligari's excited expression shows the climax of his show is drawing near.
Caesar, do you hear me? It is I calling you. I, Caligari, your master. Awaken for a brief while from your dark night.
In response to his master's command, the muscles around Caesar's mouth begin to twitch spasmodically, as with someone who is reluctantly coming out of a very deep sleep. His mouth quivers and falls slightly open. His eyelids flutter before parting slowly. Slowly, the somnambulist's eyes open wide to a full, manic glare, the irises almost entirely surrounded by white. Caligari has begun to grin triumphantly. His face lights up with a fiendish grin as he begins to speak again.
Ladies and gentlemen, Caesar will now answer any question you like to put to him. Caesar knows every secret. Caesar knows the past and can see into your future. Come up and test him for yourselves.
Alan's face is brightly lit against the dark background, the open face of an honest, naive young man. His eyebrows are raised questionably as he prepares to speak.
How long have I to live?
Alan's face is upturned in questioning, his brow furrowed. Francis looks on with apparent horror as Alan asks his question, and Caesar makes ready his reply. Caesar's tousled hair falls over his brow, and his eyes are staring widely. He replies, very briefly, until tomorrow's dawn. Alan draws back, shocked, then smiles, trying to put on a good face. Though clearly very shaken, he draws back, panting as he does so. Francis stares on, eyes and mouth open, in simple-minded disbelief, head tilted right. The ending sequence, the sanitarium. Suddenly, Francis notices Caesar, leaning against the wall of the courtyard behind the chairs and still engrossed in the flower, and recoils, falling backwards against his friends. Caesar's face looks sad and melancholy as he gazes tenderly at his flower. His hair is now timidly brushed back from his brow. Francis recovers his balance and pulls his companion away from Caesar. His points towards the ladder across the older man in the he points towards the ladder across from the older man and whispers urgently. Francis's expression throughout the exchange is wild and staring. He is not at all the bright, intense young man of the former scene.
Look, there's Caesar. Never ask him to tell your fortune. It will mean death for you.
Caesar, gaunt and melancholy, continues his examination of the flower, supporting the bloom with his hand. The director of the institute, a neat, benevolent-looking man, walks down the steps onto the arch of the courtyard. He is meticulously dressed in a frock coat, waistcoat, and light-colored trousers. His face bears a very vague resemblance of Caligari's. Francis screams something out of clenched teeth. Two women from either side of him draw back, their hands raised in fear.
You all believe I am mad? I don't think that's true. It is the truth that with me.
The director is continuing his walk forward, oblivious that Francis is rushing towards from behind him. Francis grasps hold of the director's shoulders, shouting loudly,
"He is Caligari! Caligari! Caligari!"
The older doctors rush in to the director's aid, while other attendants come from another side of the courtyard and grab Francis from the waist. The two women who have held Francis's look on with extreme alarm. Francis is surrounded by the crowd of attendants, one of whom is brandishing a straitjacket. They have succeeded in subduing him and slipped the straitjacket over him, bundling him away out of the courtyard. Francis is dragged into the same cell in which Caligari was earlier incarcerated. The group of attendants around Francis is followed into the cell by the director and two white-coated doctors, who bend inquisitively over Francis after he has been deposited on the bunk bed at the back of the cell. The director straightens up, turns towards the camera, fumbling in his inside pocket of his frock coat, from which he produces a pair of round spectacles. He slowly pulls the spectacles over his ears, giving him the extraordinary resemblance of Caligari. Francis stares at the director like a terrified child. The director, however, takes his head gently in both hands and lays it on the pillow. He turns towards the camera, thoughtfully removes his glasses.
At last, I understand the nature of his madness. He thinks I am that mystic Caligari. Now I see how he can be brought back to sanity again.
The director turns slightly right, brushes back a few stray wisps of gray hair, and, looking well pleased with himself, replaces his spectacles in his coat pocket. Iris out on the director's face, a thoughtful, pleased expression on it.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for listening to The Mental Suppository. On behalf of Jamie Billings and Kevin Barbary, this is Bret Herholst saying,
I knew I'd disturb you.
The Mental Suppository has been produced by Bret Herholst and Jamie Billings and distributed by M the Media Project. Theme music generously donated by Mr. B, the Gentleman Rhymer. Visit his webpage at gentlemanrhymer.com. We would love to hear from our fans. Email us at mentalsuppository@gmail.com.